If you're a muscular 200 pounds and you decide to sharpen your lifting technique, you might be surprised at the difference it can make. Imagine this. You got to that 200 pounds using less than ideal form, but with the same level of effort, by simply improving your technique, you could end the year at 203 pounds of lean muscle. Sounds good, right? Now, take it further. With proper technique, that number could climb to 210 pounds in a year. That's a solid gain, just by optimizing how you train. But let's keep it real. If you're already at 200 pounds, will perfect technique suddenly have you ballooning up to 230 or even 250 pounds of muscle in the same time frame? No, that's not how it works. Technique isn't a magic wand, but it's definitely not something to overlook. It's one of those things that might not seem like a game changer at first glance, but over time, it adds up in a meaningful way. And for that reason alone, it's worth your time and focus. So, let's dig into this idea of good technique. What is it really? How do you recognize it, and why does it matter so much in your fitness journey? First up, good technique ensures that the target muscle is doing the bulk of the work. It becomes the star of the show, so to speak. This means the muscle you're actually trying to train takes center stage as the prime mover. Let's take lunges, for example. When done with proper form, most of your weight stays on the front leg, making the glutes the primary muscle doing the heavy lifting. That's exactly what you want if you're aiming to grow and strengthen your glutes. But if your technique isn't up to par, things can go sideways. Poor form can shift the load to other muscles, like your quads in this case, causing them to take over as the prime mover. Sure, your quads get a workout, but your glutes miss out on the stimulus they need to grow. The result? Your quads might get stronger, but your glutes stay underdeveloped and don't get the love they deserve. That's why dialing in your form is so critical. It's about giving each muscle its time to shine. Stability is a cornerstone of good technique. When your body is stable, firmly grounded without unnecessary movement, you can recruit more of the target muscle effectively. This is a key principle that applies across the board. Anything that enhances your stability tends to go hand in hand with better technique. Take the dumbbell incline press as an example. If you're pressing with your feet floating in the air and your body wobbling around, you're setting yourself up for inefficiency. That lack of stability makes it harder to engage the right muscles and maintain control. But when you plant your feet firmly, lock your hips, position your shoulders, and create a solid, stable base, everything changes. Suddenly, you're able to channel your energy into the press with precision, allowing the target muscles, like your chest and shoulders, to do their job effectively. This idea of stability isn't just about one exercise, it's universal. The more stable you are, the better your technique becomes. And with better technique, you'll find yourself engaging the right muscles more consistently, paving the way for better results and fewer injuries. Let's keep exploring how these universal truths apply to every movement you do. Another key aspect of good technique is ensuring that the target muscle isn't just engaged. It becomes the limiting factor in your movement. This means the muscle you're trying to work is the one that tires out first, taking the brunt of the workload and getting pushed close to failure. That's where the real growth happens. Let's take dips as an example. If your form is just average, your body might move however it wants, spreading the workload across your chest, shoulders, and triceps. While the shoulders will always play a role, if your chest ends up being the limiting factor instead of your triceps, then your triceps don't get the maximum benefit. Sure, they're working, but they're not being pushed to their limit. And that's the difference between a good workout and a great one, when the target muscle is fully challenged and taken close to failure. Good technique is about precision. It ensures the target muscle isn't just involved, it's leading the charge. This principle is crucial for maximizing your results, so let's keep building on this foundation to unlock even more benefits of refined technique. Another hallmark of good technique is consistency. Rep after rep, your form should look pretty similar, with just enough variation to keep things natural. This isn't about chasing perfection or neurotically making each rep identical. In fact, research suggests that allowing for slight differences in reps builds resilience and reduces the risk of injury. Why? Because if every rep is rigidly identical and then one goes off pattern unexpectedly, your body isn't prepared to handle it. That's when injuries can sneak in. So good technique is about balanced consistency, similar but not robotic. If your reps are wildly different from one another, you're not practicing good technique. You're just going through the motions chaotically. On the flip side, if you force every rep to be exactly the same and stop as soon as it gets tough, you're also doing yourself a disservice. The key is finding that sweet spot where your reps flow naturally but maintain enough uniformity to reinforce proper movement patterns. Another essential aspect of good technique, emphasizing the deep stretch. This is where a lot of the magic happens. For example, if you're bench pressing and cutting the range short, sure, it might be effective to a degree, but why stop there? Going for that deep stretch has been shown time and time again to stimulate more muscle growth. It's backed by theory, research, and honestly, just trying it out yourself. The next day, you'll feel it in the form of soreness, a clear sign that you've pushed your muscles in the best way possible. So, whether it's dips, bench presses, or any other movement, good technique usually involves not skipping the stretch. That deep range of motion is where you tap into untapped potential, unlocking gains that partial movements just can't deliver. Let's keep this momentum going as we dive deeper into these nuances to take your training to the next level. Pull-ups, squats, rows. Whatever the movement, if you're skipping the deep stretch, you're leaving gains on the table. Ever see someone do pull-ups where they barely lower themselves? You can't help but think, what are you doing? The hardest, most hypertrophic part of the movement is that deep stretch at the bottom. Yet they're avoiding it entirely. It's not just missed opportunity, it's close to objectively poor technique in most cases. But here's the thing, you can take your technique to the next level by emphasizing the stretch and controlling the movement. For example, instead of regular rows, try deficit rows. Stand on a platform to stretch deeper at the bottom. As you lower, move at a normal speed until you reach halfway. Then slow it down as you approach that deep stretch. Pause for a second in that fully stretched position. You'll feel it. That extra emphasis doesn't guarantee perfect technique, but it's a massive step in the right direction for most people. Another hallmark of good technique is eccentric control. This doesn't mean you have to lift slowly all the time. Explosive movements are fine, but the key is maintaining control throughout. Your reps should look smooth and deliberate, not chaotic or rushed. Think of it this way. If every rep looks the same, but they all lack control, that's not good technique. True consistency includes controlling the weight, especially during the eccentric or lowering phase. Why is this so important? Slowing down your eccentric movement gives you time to assess and adjust. For instance, during squats, you can feel how your knees are tracking or how your quads are engaging, and you can tweak your form mid-set for better results. If you're rushing, there's no chance to make those adjustments. You're missing valuable feedback from your muscles and wasting an opportunity to optimize every rep. So, take it slow on the way down, stay in control, and use that time to perfect your technique. Let's dive deeper into why these elements truly matter for long-term progress. Take squats, for example. When you slow things down, you can actually feel what's happening in your body. Let's say you're sitting too far back and not engaging your quads as much as you want. With just a slight adjustment, shifting your weight a bit more forward, you suddenly feel your quads light up. And boom, you're in the zone. That feedback loop allows you to tweak and improve your form rep by rep. The next rep feels even better. And before you know it, you're optimizing your stimulus to fatigue ratio right there in the set. It's not that you have to go slow during the eccentric phase, but when you do, it opens the door to these fine-tuned adjustments. Another huge perk of good technique, it makes tracking your progress so much easier. When your bent over row or pull-up technique is consistent rep to rep, week to week, and month to month, you can trust the numbers you're tracking. If the weight you're lifting or the reps you're completing go up with consistent technique, that's a strong indicator you're getting stronger and building muscle. On the other hand, if your form is all over the place, tracking becomes unreliable. You might think you're improving, but in reality, you're just compromising your form to hit those rep goals. The result? You've spent a year training hard, but haven't seen the muscle growth you expected, all because your technique didn't keep up. Good technique eliminates that ambiguity. When your numbers improve with solid form, it's a safe bet you're making real progress. Lastly, mastering good technique gives you a clear checklist to follow. The 6 principles we've already discussed become a reliable framework to guide your training. It's not just about doing the movement, it's about doing it right, consistently, and with purpose. That's the real value of good technique. Not just short-term gains, but sustainable, measurable progress over the long haul. Let's build on this foundation and take your training even further. Your technique is uniquely yours, and that's exactly how it should be. Instead of trying to replicate someone else's form, focus on what resonates with you. Watch videos, observe what looks effective, and then experiment. Adjust positions to suit your body. If someone with short femurs and a long torso squats straight up, that's great for them. But if you have a short torso and long femurs, staying upright may only work to a certain extent. Adapt the principles to your structure for the best results. If you're just starting out, good technique is your top priority. At this stage, you don't need to worry about optimizing everything. Your newbie gains will come just by lifting. However, ingraining solid technique early on is crucial because it sticks with you for life. Poorly learned habits, even if corrected later, have a way of creeping back in when you push yourself hard. Avoid that by building a foundation of great form from the start. As an intermediate lifter, you've likely established decent technique, but now comes the challenge of maintaining it as you push closer to failure. When reps get tough, technique tends to break down, so it's your job to keep it solid all the way to the end of each set. This is also the stage where you start individualizing your technique, experimenting with adjustments like hip or foot positioning to find what works best for your body. You have the experience now to make informed tweaks, so lean into that. If you've been training for 7 or more years, gains are harder to come by and every detail counts. By this point, your technique should be finely tuned to what works best for you. Advanced lifters often stick to their tried and true methods, but it's still important to keep an open mind. For example, someone might suggest widening your stance. Test it during warm-ups. If it feels good, great. If not, go back to what you know works. This openness to refinement, combined with a deep understanding of your body, is what separates the good from the great. Good technique isn't revolutionary. It won't completely transform your physique overnight, but it's a key tool for optimizing your training. It enhances your stimulus by a significant margin and drastically reduces your risk of injury. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional. And that's why good technique is awesome. So if you're not prioritizing it, you're leaving gains on the table. Thanks for sticking around. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And hey, check out the videos popping up on your screen. They're packed with tips to help you fine-tune your lifts and get even better results. See you next time.